let's go fishing. You're watching a real deal, baby, real deal fishing show. You're watching a real deal, baby, real deal fishing show. We'll sit back in that chair, 'cause fishing we're gonna go. We're gonna be out on a lake, some pond or reservoir. We're gonna be deep in the river, keeping it real is so hard. We'll sit back in that chair, 'cause we're gonna take you along. Well, we might catch some bass, we might catch a pike, we might catch a muskie, we'll fish all night. You're watching a real deal, baby, real deal fishing show. Well, come on along, 'cause fishing we're gonna go. Oh, come on, play that thing.
My love for bass fishing started probably when I was about 12 years old. My grandmother took me to a Kmart and they had a Zebco rod. I remember the nightmares that rod caused from casting it and the line getting all caught up in the gears. But that was the initial. She took me to a little pond that was right next to a shopping center where she would do her food shopping. So I would have about a half hour to fish this little pond. Had no idea what I was doing. I think I was even using corn for bait. But it was that initial bite when that rod started bending and that sunfish bit that piece of corn. It was just a fun thing. And here I am years later, and I'm still chasing fish. So my love for bass fishing started out at a small pond in Rochelle Park, New Jersey, right next to ShopRite. So that's where my love of fishing started. My love of bass fishing started a few years later when a neighbor of mine, Bill Perino, who's involved with the Real Deal Fishing Show, had a bass boat and asked if I was interested in going fishing. I remember sometimes walking past his boat that was parked outside by the apartment buildings that we lived in, sometimes just to throw out garbage, to see if Bill would be like, "Hey Rich, you want to go bass fishing with me?" And I would, of course, right around the other side, had all my rods and reels and tackle all set to go. And so really, it was neighbors that took me fishing, not having parents that really liked fishing. But I was very grateful for the people that stepped up, and my grandmother for buying me that first rod many years ago. And everybody who got me out on the water and showed me such a positive hobby as bass fishing, especially in the great state of New Jersey.
Basically what happened was about 1986, and my brother-in-law, who at the time just started fishing himself, got me hooked on small ponds and small lakes fishing with a rubber worm in Connecticut. And it was just like the first cast I made. It was a thrill to throw out this plastic rubber worm, and within a few seconds I see my line just all of a sudden pick up, take off. And I mean, it was just an inexplainable thrill. It was just so much fun in comparison to some of the other fishing that I had done in the past, that it just basically grew on me, and I just couldn't wait to do it again. And the small lakes that we were fishing were very similar to a lot of the small lakes that are here in Jersey. And I just thought it was a great way to get out on the water and try to basically, not too much fishing pressure, and then just continue that same style of fishing. And I've kind of perfected it, and I've gotten good at a couple of different little rubber worm techniques, but it's like my all-time favorite. It's my number one go-to bait. Probably what I throw 80 or 90% of the time is some sort of rubber worm, and it's just to the point now after 20 some years that it's just really, I just can't wait to go out and do it all the time. I love it.
Well, it's been a long road for me. I mean, I didn't always live in New Jersey. For the first 3 years of my life, I lived in New York City, which is pretty much the worst place possible to bass fish. But then, when I was 3 years old, we moved to New Jersey, Summit, And pretty much from then on, my dad got me into it, you know. We didn't have any rods to start, so what he would do was he just took a stick from the woods and tied some line to it, and we went down to a local creek and caught bass. And from then on, I can easily remember the first bass I ever caught. I was around 4 or 5 years old, and once I caught that first bass, that was it. I was hooked for life, and I've been fishing ever since. We've upgraded from a kayak to a tracker, and every moment has been wonderful for me.
Now, what is it like to be a bass fisherman in New Jersey? Well, let me tell you something. We don't have the resources as somebody in Florida or somebody in a state that has a bunch of prestigious lakes where they're in print, they're in newspapers, they're in magazines, they're on TV. New Jersey, there's Greenwood Lake, there's Lake Apacon. That's pretty much what you're going to hear about in any publication if anything's going to be written. So as a New Jersey bass angler, you have to kind of play a little Sherlock Holmes. You have to look into it yourself. You have to go online, search lakes out, fish lakes, kind of start coming up with your own strategy for them, because there's no publications that talk about Mountain Lake or Oxford Furnace Lake or down South Jersey, Union Lake or Asserpong, So it's up to us as anglers in New Jersey to make this resource for other New Jersey anglers, because we don't have the print. We don't have the fishing shows. We don't have Roland Martin fishing here. We don't have Bill Dance. So to be a New Jersey angler, you got to be a go-getter. You got to get out there. You got to pound these lakes out, try to crack the code. And most of the time, a lot of the anglers I talk to, they do. And a lot of great anglers came out of the state. We have Mike Iaconelli, Adrian Avina, who is in the FLW. Mike Iaconelli's in the Bassmasters, and there's a ton of other guys that are cracking through professionally in the state of New Jersey that are proving that this state is just not the New Jersey Turnpike. No. It's a bass capital.
And then if you want to, just make a little drive-by to kind of survey the lake a little bit to see if it's something that you want to fish at, if you've never heard of it before. But it's a good way to get out on the water. It's a good way to try different locations that are usually close to home. And whether you live in South Jersey all the way down by the Pine Barrens, or you live in Sussex County all the way in North Jersey, there's plenty of opportunities in a lot of these bodies of water to find something. So,
New Jersey is interesting because a lot of people think of New Jersey as like a trash heap with no places to fish, no good lakes, and that's really not true. I mean, sure, there are bad sections in New Jersey, but really once you get out west a little bit, or north, south, there's some really good bodies of water to fish. You got your private lakes like we're sitting on today that if you ask permission from anyone that lives on the lake, you could fish. And then you got really good public waters like, for instance, Merrill Creek out in West Jersey, Schwartzwood Lake. These are all places that if you went to them, took a drive about an hour outside of, Trenton or the really nasty areas, you wouldn't even believe you're in New Jersey. You think you're in Kansas or something. And then, there's also little backwaters, what you could find on like Google Earth and whatnot, that are really quite amazing for bass. And I've caught tons of 5-pounders in those little ponds, and no one knows about them, but New Jersey definitely has some good areas to catch bass.
You're watching the Real Deal, baby, Real Deal Fishing Show. You're watching the Real Deal, baby, Real Deal Fishing Show. We'll sit back in that chair, 'cause fishing we're gonna go. We're gonna be out on a lake, some pond or reservoir.